Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's downfall was not just a fall from grace, it was a near-total erasure from the industry he once dominated. At his peak, Spacey was a two-time Academy Award winner and the artistic director of London's Old Vic Theatre. His portrayal of Frank Underwood in House of Cards made him one of the most powerful figures in the streaming era, earning him a Golden Globe and over $10 million per year. He was respected not only for his skill, but for his perceived depth, range, and transformative presence on screen. The unraveling began in October 2017 when actor Anthony Rapp accused Spacey of making a sexual advance toward him in 1986, when Rapp was just 14 years old. The allegation, published by BuzzFeed News, prompted over a dozen men to come forward with similar claims, painting a pattern of decades-long misconduct. 8 crew members from House of Cards reported the set as a hostile environment for young men. The docuseries Spacey Unmasked later revealed additional accounts, including allegations of groping from his tenure at the Old Vic. A production assistant described his behavior as common knowledge, and one actor said he was so traumatized he feared going to work. Spacey's older brother, Randy Fowler, described their father as a neo-Nazi and a sexual abuser. Spacey confirmed these claims, citing the abuse as the reason for his extreme privacy and delayed coming out. However, Spacey's attempt to blend his apology with a public declaration of his sexuality was widely condemned as a manipulative deflection. Prominent LGBTQ+ voices criticized the timing and perceived conflation of homosexuality with predatory behavior. While Spacey avoided criminal conviction in both the US and UK, with a 2022 New York civil case ending in his favor and a 2023 London trial acquitting him of all charges, the industry judged him differently. An arbitrator ruled in 2020 that he had violated sexual harassment policies on House of Cards, resulting in a $31 million penalty payable to the production company, MRC. Netflix terminated his contract, halted production, rewrote the season, and ultimately shortened the series. He was dropped by his talent agency CAA and publicist, lost an International Emmy Founders Award, and had his scenes in Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World reshot with Christopher Plummer. Spacey's public behavior during the scandal exacerbated his isolation. In a series of cryptic YouTube videos, titled Let Me Be Frank, he appeared in character as Underwood, delivering eerie monologues that blurred reality and performance. These videos were widely seen as tone-deaf and disturbing, reinforcing the perception of a man unrepentant and dangerously detached from reality. Financially, Spacey claims to be ruined. In a 2024 interview, he said he owes many millions in legal fees and was forced to sell his Baltimore home to avoid foreclosure. Still, he has begun a slow, tentative return. He accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Better World Fund at Cannes in 2025 and has roles in small European films. Supporters like Sharon Stone and Liam Neeson argue he deserves another chance now that courts have cleared him. But in Hollywood, legal innocence is not the same as professional redemption. Spacey's blacklisting, triggered not by a conviction but by corporate risk management, marks a new standard. Guilt in the eyes of the public and liability on the balance sheet may be enough to end a career forever. Monique's blacklisting wasn't triggered by scandal or criminal allegations, but by a refusal to work for free. In 2009, she delivered a raw, unforgettable performance as the abusive mother in Precious, a role that earned her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Her compensation for the film was just $50,000. As awards season approached, Lionsgate and executive producers Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey expected her to promote the film internationally, including at the Cannes Film Festival. Monique declined. She had fulfilled her contract, she said, and had other paid obligations, including her late-night talk show and comedy tour. The industry, however, expected her to play the game. This refusal to fly around the world on her own dime after delivering an Oscar-caliber performance earned her a damning label, difficult. But Monique saw something deeper at play. In her stand-up routines and interviews, she described how she had been whiteballed by some black who had no balls, calling out Daniels, Perry, and Winfrey for what she framed as complicity in an industry that routinely underpays and undervalues black women. She argued that her blacklisting was not about attitude, but about audacity. Audacity to say no, to demand fair treatment, and to expect compensation for her labor. Her struggle was compounded when, in 2017, Netflix offered her $500,000 for a one-hour comedy special. Monique pointed out the disparity. Fellow comedians like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock had signed deals with Netflix for $20 million per special. Amy Schumer, a white woman, secured $13 million. Monique's offer was less than 5% of Schumer's. When she challenged it as racial and gender discrimination, Netflix allegedly refused to negotiate further. Monique filed a lawsuit in 2019 claiming retaliation and systemic bias. Critics said she was overplaying her hand. But in 2020, a federal judge allowed the case to proceed, ruling that she had plausibly alleged discrimination and retaliation. By June 2022, Netflix settled the lawsuit for an undisclosed sum. Within months, Netflix announced it would produce My Name is Monique, Monique, a new comedy special released in April 2023. The company that had once lowballed her was now partnering with her. Monique had not just regained her footing, she had done it on her terms. Meanwhile, Lee Daniels offered a public apology to Monique in 2022, ending more than a decade of silence. He cast her in his Netflix horror film, The Deliverance, further signaling professional reconciliation. Her relationship with Perry and Winfrey, however, remains unresolved, and she has continued to publicly criticize them for what she views as betrayal. Throughout this period, Monique maintained that her fight was never about ego, it was about equity. She saw herself as a case study in how Hollywood punishes black women who don't smile, nod, and say thank you. Her use of legal strategy, media pressure, and public confrontation created a rare arc, not just survival, but vindication. Monique's blacklisting and eventual return reveal the unofficial mechanisms that enforce conformity in Hollywood. Stay quiet, be grateful, play the game. When she refused, she paid a heavy price, but by standing firm, taking legal action, and calling out the system publicly, she became one of the only blacklisted performers to force a full re-entry on her own terms, proving that in rare cases, corporate retaliation can be challenged and reversed when principle is matched by persistence.
Sorry for stopping your video, but you really should subscribe.
Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's career is a portrait of chaos, his fall from grace, less a single event than a slow-motion implosion spread across years of erratic behavior, legal trouble, and disturbing allegations. From early fame on Disney Channel's Even Stevens to big-budget franchises like Transformers and critically acclaimed films like Fury, LaBeouf was once seen as one of the most talented and versatile actors of his generation. But behind the scenes, a troubling pattern of arrests, substance abuse, and violent outbursts was already taking shape. Before any allegations of abuse emerged, LaBeouf had developed a reputation as Hollywood's resident provocateur. He plagiarized a short film, engaged in bizarre public stunts like wearing a paper bag over his head at red carpet events, and was arrested multiple times for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. In 2017, he was caught on video launching into a racist tirade at police during a drunken arrest in Georgia. He referred to a black officer as a stupid bitch and told him he would go to hell because of his skin color. Years earlier, in 2011, he was filmed punching a man in the face outside a bar in Sherman Oaks. These incidents stacked up, each further eroding his public image and making him a liability in the eyes of studios and insurers. Then came the breaking point. In December 2020, musician and former girlfriend FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing LaBeouf of sexual battery, assault, and emotional distress. She detailed a harrowing account of psychological manipulation, physical violence, and controlling behavior. Among the allegations, that he knowingly gave her a sexually transmitted disease, choked her while she slept, and threatened to crash a car unless she declared her love for him. The lawsuit described the relationship as a cycle of coercion and terror. Another ex-girlfriend, Carolyn Foe, supported the lawsuit with her own account of physical abuse, including being pinned down and headbutted until she bled. LaBeouf's response was a mix of confession and denial. He admitted to past abuse and issued a statement saying he had been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years, but also claimed that many of these allegations are not true. He entered inpatient treatment and was dropped by CAA, one of Hollywood's top talent agencies. Despite this public reckoning, LaBeouf has never fully disappeared from the industry. His semi-autobiographical film Honey Boy, written during court-ordered rehab, portrayed a raw depiction of childhood trauma and a strained relationship with an abusive father, played by LaBeouf himself. The film was initially praised as a brave act of emotional exorcism. However, in 2022, LaBeouf disavowed major parts of it, calling it effing nonsense and admitting he had lied to get sympathy. The revelation blurred the lines between confession, performance, and manipulation, raising doubts about the sincerity of his redemption arc. LaBeouf's most recent transformation has been spiritual. While preparing for the role of Padre Pio in a religious biopic, he converted to Roman Catholicism and has since embraced the church publicly, claiming it saved his life. This faith-based rebranding appears calculated, positioning him as a man seeking forgiveness rather than evasion. Shockingly, in 2024, director Francis Ford Coppola cast LaBeouf in a key role in Megalopolis, a long-anticipated, high-profile film. The casting drew widespread criticism, but Coppola's endorsement gave LaBeouf legitimacy again. He walked the Cannes red carpet alongside the director, reappearing on the global stage in a high-profile setting, something many of his accused peers have never achieved. Shia LaBeouf's case reveals a unique loophole in Hollywood's unwritten blacklist. Despite grave allegations and corroborated claims of abuse, he has been granted a high-level comeback by virtue of his perceived artistic depth, vulnerability, and endorsement from elite filmmakers. His narrative of troubled genius, trauma, and transformation has insulated him in a way that other actors accused of similar or worse behavior have not enjoyed. The tormented artist archetype, when combined with strategic reinvention and the right industry cosign, has offered LaBeouf a bridge back to the mainstream, even as his legal battles remain unresolved. Rose McGowan. Rose McGowan's blacklisting is unlike any other. It wasn't the result of a scandal, conviction, or even career mismanagement. It was the consequence of a full-scale war against the most powerful men in Hollywood. McGowan's journey from actress to activist transformed her from a rising star in 1990s cult films, like The Doom Generation and Scream, into one of the earliest and loudest whistleblowers of the Me Too movement. But the same crusade that helped take down Harvey Weinstein also led to her being ostracized by the industry she once served. In 1997, McGowan says she was raped by Weinstein in a hotel room during the Sundance Film Festival. At the time, she accepted a $100,000 settlement, which included a non-disclosure agreement. For years, this trauma remained mostly hidden. But in 2017, as other victims began to speak out against Weinstein, McGowan became one of the first to publicly name him and link her blacklisting to his influence. She accused not just Weinstein, but Amazon Studios, of burying a project she was developing after she reported the assault internally. That same year, Time magazine named her one of the silence breakers. What distinguishes McGowan's story is the depth of retaliation she claims to have experienced. In 2019, she filed a federal racketeering lawsuit alleging that Weinstein, with the help of attorneys David Boies and Lisa Bloom and the Israeli intelligence firm Black Cube, orchestrated a coordinated effort to silence her. According to the suit, operatives posed as journalists and women's rights activists to befriend her, gain access to her manuscript, and discredit her before her memoir, Brave, was published. Though the lawsuit was later dismissed on procedural grounds, the allegations shocked the public and painted a chilling portrait of how far the Hollywood elite would allegedly go to protect itself. McGowan's brand of activism is confrontational, radical, and uncompromising, traits that have both earned her followers and alienated potential allies. She has repeatedly clashed with fellow feminists and activists. Her heated 2018 confrontation with a transgender protester at a book signing, during which she made comments interpreted as trans-exclusionary, drew heavy criticism from LGBTQ+ groups. She later faced backlash for defending actress Asia Argento, who had been accused of sexually abusing a minor, and for tweeting an apology to Iran after a U.S. airstrike, calling the Democratic Party a deep cult. These public positions blurred the line between activism and provocation and further complicated her relationship with the movement she helped ignite. Professionally, McGowan has shifted almost entirely away from acting. Her creative energy has been redirected toward advocacy and self-expression outside the traditional Hollywood framework. She released Brave in 2018, appeared in the documentary series Citizen Rose, and launched a music project titled Planet 9, which she described as a form of artistic and emotional healing. Her acting work post-2017 has been sparse, mostly limited to small indie films or documentary appearances, as herself. McGowan's blacklisting was not something done to her quietly behind closed doors. It was the direct result of a conscious decision to burn bridges in pursuit of exposing systemic abuse. She was not cast out by accident. She exiled herself intentionally. In her own words, she declared war on a corrupt system. And by doing so, she made herself unemployable in the very industry she once thrived in. But unlike others who attempt redemption arcs, McGowan has shown little interest in returning. Instead, she built a new platform outside the system, #RoseArmie, a space where she defines the rules, not studios or executives. Her story serves as a blueprint for a different kind of blacklisting, one caused not by scandal but by speaking too loudly, too early, and too directly. In a system that punishes silence breakers even as it pretends to celebrate them, McGowan's experience reveals that the cost of telling the truth in Hollywood, especially when told without apology, is often total professional exile. Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer's fall was one of the most surreal and publicly dissected implosions in modern Hollywood history. Once known for his aristocratic good looks and dual performance as the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network, Hammer cultivated a clean-cut image of affluence and charm. He was descended from oil tycoon Armand Hammer and became a fixture in prestige films like Call Me By Your Name, where he portrayed a charismatic academic in a celebrated queer romance. By 2019, he was being groomed as a bankable leading man. That image collapsed overnight. In January 2021, an anonymous Instagram account began leaking alleged direct messages from Hammer's private conversations. The messages revealed graphic sexual fantasies, including domination, rape play, bloodlust, and, most infamously, cannibalism. Phrases like, "I am 100% a cannibal," and detailed fantasies of eating flesh were plastered across headlines and memes. Though many initially dismissed the leaks as an elaborate hoax, former partners came forward to confirm their authenticity. Two ex-girlfriends, Courtney Vucekovich and Paige Lorenze, accused Hammer of psychological manipulation and physical abuse. Vucekovich alleged that Hammer said he wanted to barbecue and eat her ribs. Lorenze claimed he branded her skin with a knife. In March 2021, a woman known only as Effie accused Hammer of raping her in 2017, triggering a formal LAPD investigation. The allegations portrayed a man who blurred the line between consensual kink and coercion, using dominance and charisma to trap women in abusive dynamics. Professionally, the backlash was swift and brutal. Hammer was dropped by his agency, WME, and publicist. He was fired or forced to exit every major project he had been attached to, including the high-profile Jennifer Lopez film Shotgun Wedding, the Paramount Plus series The Offer, and the Broadway play The Minutes. His role in Next Goal Wins was reshot with Will Arnett. In 2 months, Hammer went from rising star to unemployable. Financially, the impact was catastrophic. His net worth plummeted from an estimated $16 million to just $100,000 by 2023. He was cut off from his family's wealth and photographed working as a timeshare salesman in the Cayman Islands, a humiliating reversal he later confirmed was real. "I was broke," he said. "I had to do something." By 2024, he revealed he was massively in debt and estranged from most of his support system. In May 2023, the LA District Attorney's Office declined to press criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence to prove rape beyond a reasonable doubt. Legally cleared but publicly vilified, Hammer began laying the groundwork for a comeback. He launched the Armie Hammer Time podcast and took roles in small, independently financed films, including a Western titled Frontier Crucible and a thriller by cult director Uwe Boll. His public messaging carefully reframed the narrative. In interviews, Hammer denied criminal behavior, but admitted to being a dick. He emphasized that all encounters were consensual and traced his extreme sexual interests to having been molested by a youth pastor at 13. This tactic shifted focus away from the rape allegation and toward a discourse on psychological trauma and consent gone awry. By acknowledging moral failings but rejecting criminal intent, Hammer crafted a narrative of flawed manhood rather than predation. The media spectacle surrounding the cannibalism claims had an unintended side effect. It served as a smokescreen. While the most legally serious accusation, rape, faded from headlines, the bizarre but less actionable kink talk remained front and center. That shift helped Hammer regain some public curiosity, if not yet sympathy. The grotesque memification of his scandal proved more palatable than the gravity of actual abuse. Armie Hammer's case illustrates a new dimension of Hollywood blacklisting. Though never charged with a crime, the sheer volume and sensational nature of the allegations made him too radioactive for major studios. His career death was not about guilt, it was about optics. And yet, his calculated rebranding shows that with the right framing, the right timing, and a media-savvy pivot to independent projects, even a disgraced actor can start building a path back, so long as the public remembers the cannibalism and forgets the coercion. Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl's blacklisting in Hollywood wasn't about criminal behavior or public scandal, it was about speaking out. In the late 2000s, she was one of the highest-paid actresses in the business. Her breakout role as Dr. Izzy Stevens on Grey's Anatomy earned her an Emmy and made her a household name. Her transition to romantic comedies was swift and successful, with box office hits like Knocked Up and 27 Dresses. At her peak, Heigl commanded $15 million for a single film, putting her on par with top-tier male actors. But her fall was equally swift, and largely driven by a narrative of being difficult, ungrateful, and hard to work with. The first major blow came in 2008 when Heigl gave an interview to Vanity Fair criticizing Knocked Up, a film that had catapulted her into A-list status. She called it a little sexist, accusing it of painting women as humorless and uptight while allowing men to be lovable and goofy. Her comments were interpreted as biting the hand that fed her. Director Judd Apatow and co-star Seth Rogen publicly expressed hurt and confusion, with Rogen later saying he felt betrayed. That same year, Heigl made another controversial move by withdrawing her name from Emmy consideration. She released a statement claiming she wasn't given the material to justify a nomination, a direct jab at the writers and producers of Grey's Anatomy. Series creator Shonda Rhimes and the show's team were reportedly furious. Heigl's criticism was seen as tactless and arrogant, and it strained her relationship with the show's leadership. In a later interview, Rhimes declared she had a no a-holes policy on set and that there were no Heigls allowed, making her the poster child for professional toxicity. In 2009, Heigl went on The Late Show with David Letterman and complained about the cruel and mean 17-hour workdays on Grey's Anatomy. Though she was speaking to industry labor concerns that would later become mainstream, especially after the IATS labor movement, at the time, she was perceived as hypocritical. Reports emerged that the grueling hours were a result of schedule accommodations made for Heigl's budding film career. The message to the industry was clear: she was burning bridges everywhere. Over time, the difficult label hardened into a career death sentence. She stopped receiving major film offers, and her projects became increasingly low profile. Despite never engaging in criminal conduct or causing scandal, she was quietly removed from top casting lists. Her offense wasn't what she said, it was that she said it publicly and unapologetically in a system that expected silence and gratitude, especially from women. But Heigl's story didn't end there. In the 2020s, cultural opinion began to shift. In a 2021 interview, she reflected on her past controversies, acknowledging some of her delivery may have been snarky, but standing by the substance of her points. She argued that her reputation spiraled out of control due to exaggerated reactions to a few honest criticisms. Her former Grey's Anatomy co-star, Ellen Pompeo, publicly supported her, saying Heigl was 100% right about the show's working conditions and would be a hero if she said the same things today. That shift in perception was matched by a successful return to television. Heigl starred in the Netflix series Firefly Lane, which became a hit. As both lead actress and executive producer, she demonstrated creative maturity and leadership. Critics praised her performance as a complex, emotionally layered character, a reminder of her acting chops beyond rom-coms. Heigl's blacklisting stemmed not from what she did, but when she did it. She raised valid concerns about sexism and labor practices in a pre-#MeToo, pre-union solidarity Hollywood. For speaking out too soon, she paid a steep professional price. But her comeback illustrates that, as industry values evolve, the very things she was vilified for can become retroactively vindicated. Her case shows how the industry's unofficial blacklist can be shaped not just by behavior, but by timing, and how redemption sometimes means waiting for the world to catch up. Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. Blacklisting didn't arrive with the sudden velocity of a headline, making scandal. It crept in gradually, over years, as allegations accumulated and his career faded. After winning an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 1997 for Jerry Maguire, Gooding's trajectory seemed assured. But instead of building on his Oscar momentum, he starred in a string of critically panned or low-budget films. By the late 2010s, his star had dimmed, even before the legal troubles began. That changed in 2019, when Gooding Jr. was arrested in New York for allegedly groping a woman at the Magic Hour rooftop bar. That single case quickly ballooned into a cascade of accusations. Over 30 women eventually came forward, many telling similar stories: unwanted touching, forcible kissing, and sexual groping, often in public spaces like nightclubs, restaurants, and lounges. The allegations painted a picture not of isolated incidents, but of a disturbing pattern of behavior spanning years. Legally, the most significant cases were a trio of criminal complaints and one civil lawsuit. In the criminal proceedings, Gooding eventually accepted a plea deal in April 2022. He pleaded guilty to one misdemeanor count of forcible touching involving a 2018 incident. The deal allowed him to avoid jail time and a criminal record, provided he completed 6 months of alcohol and behavioral counseling and stayed out of legal trouble. He met the terms, and the charge was reduced to a non-criminal harassment violation. However, the civil case loomed larger. A woman identified as Jane Doe accused Gooding of raping her in a Manhattan hotel room in 2013. The case was bolstered by a federal judge's decision to allow testimony from 3 other women who alleged similar behavior, citing a pattern of sudden sexual assaults. Jury selection was set to begin in mid-2023, but just before trial, Gooding reached a financial settlement with the accuser. The terms were not disclosed, but the agreement effectively prevented graphic allegations from being aired in open court. While the legal settlements kept Gooding out of prison and minimized public court testimony, they did little to restore his public image. Studios steered clear. His name became synonymous with sexual misconduct allegations, and his mainstream acting prospects evaporated. He has since been named in at least one additional lawsuit as a co-defendant, further entangling him in legal fallout, including a 2024 complaint tied to music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. With Hollywood doors largely closed, Gooding has attempted to reframe his narrative through faith and redemption. He has pivoted toward the Christian film circuit, a niche market that often embraces stories of moral transformation. In 2024, he starred in The Firing Squad, a faith-based film. At the premiere, he led an altar call, an evangelical-style appeal for spiritual commitment, underscoring his new public posture as a man seeking redemption through religion. This move suggests a strategy employed by other blacklisted figures. When traditional Hollywood turns away, pivot to spaces where morality narratives are central and audiences are more willing to separate personal failings from artistic work. For Gooding, the Christian media world may offer a second act rooted not in celebrity but in testimony. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s blacklisting exemplifies the slow erosion of a career through volume, more than 30 allegations, none resulting in major convictions, but enough to render him untouchable. His legal strategy, plea deals, and settlements, and kept him out of jail but failed to restore credibility. Now, he occupies a fringe professional space where redemption is scripted, public, and performative. His case underscores how the accumulation of misconduct, even without criminal convictions, can end a career just as decisively as a single scandal, especially when the industry concludes that a name brings more liability than value.
If you're thinking about subscribing, now's the time. I'm about to post a ton here. Thanks. Back to it.
Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's descent from Hollywood icon to industry pariah was not precipitated by allegations from others, but by his own words, captured on tape and broadcast worldwide. He was once among the most bankable stars and acclaimed directors in the business, known for action franchises like Mad Max and Lethal Weapon, and for winning Oscars as both actor and director for Braveheart. In 2004, his self-financed religious epic, The Passion of the Christ, earned over $600 million, establishing him as a rare figure with both commercial and creative power. But what followed was one of the most self-destructive spirals in modern celebrity history. The first major crack appeared in July 2006, when Gibson was arrested for drunk driving in Malibu. During the arrest, he launched into a tirade tirade, stating, "Effing Jews. The Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world." The leaked arrest report sent shockwaves through the industry. He issued a public apology, but the damage was done. ABC canceled development on a Holocaust miniseries his company was producing, and Jewish organizations publicly condemned him. His anti-Semitic outburst, captured in an official police report, made it impossible for studios to claim plausible deniability. Then came the tapes. In 2010, Gibson's ex-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva, released audio recordings of phone calls in which he screamed racist and misogynistic slurs. On the tapes, he told her she looked like a pig in heat and warned, "If you get raped by a pack of N-words, it will be your fault." The public reaction was immediate and unforgiving. He was dropped by William Morris Endeavor, his powerful talent agency. No studio wanted to associate with him. He was cut from major productions and relegated to low-budget films, often as a villain or side character. Gibson's bigotry, however, didn't emerge in a vacuum. His father, Hutton Gibson, was a well-known Holocaust denier and adherent of radical traditionalist Catholicism. Hutton publicly stated that Vatican II was a Masonic plot and questioned the death toll of the Holocaust. Mel has consistently defended his father, once telling an interviewer, "My father has never lied to me." Gibson also founded his own traditionalist Catholic chapel, unaffiliated with the Catholic Church. While Gibson himself has tried to distance his beliefs from overt Holocaust denial, the ideological proximity to his father's views cast a long shadow. Despite years in the wilderness, Gibson engineered one of the most improbable comebacks in Hollywood history. In 2011, Robert Downey Jr., himself a former pariah, made a public appeal at an award ceremony, asking the industry to forgive Gibson as it had forgiven him. Slowly, support grew. Then, in 2016, Gibson directed Hacksaw Ridge, a World War II film that received 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. It was a staggering reversal. The same Academy that had all but exiled him was now celebrating his return. Today, Gibson's reputation remains divisive. Some view his rehabilitation as a testament to time, talent, and contrition. Others see it as evidence of Hollywood's willingness to overlook hate speech in exchange for box office success. Importantly, Gibson's offenses, while deeply offensive, were verbal. In the post-Hashtag Me Too era, that distinction seems to matter. Studios appear more willing to forgive speech than physical or sexual misconduct, particularly when the offender has the ability to generate their own work. Gibson's financial position further insulated him. Despite a $400 million divorce settlement, he remains extraordinarily wealthy. His net worth is estimated at over $425 million. Unlike most blacklisted actors, he didn't need to wait for someone to hire him. He could fund his own projects. That autonomy, coupled with a decade-long public absence and eventual apologies, made his return possible. The Gibson rule, as some have dubbed it, reveals a paradox at the heart of the new Hollywood blacklist. With enough time, power, and skill, even the most explosive scandals can fade. Gibson's case suggests that redemption is not just possible, it may be inevitable for those who control their own narrative and still deliver results. Whether this constitutes accountability or selective amnesia is a question Hollywood itself seems reluctant to answer.
If you enjoyed this, go ahead and subscribe. I've got a lot more content coming. Thanks for watching.